Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tiro Bana Chari Jamuna Tiro Vanacari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Some humble obeisances.
Oh, glory, Shasha, and humble obeisance. Hare Krishna.
Vallabha Girivaradha
I don't know, is my network or is the network?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, I was having a very slow network.
Okay.
Please accept my humble obeisance. So glories to Mr. Prabhupada. Glories to great Dewa. Glories to you. Glories to the district. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So
Shadi
I'm
Prabhu,
going to put a verse. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
we want to heartily thank you for your wonderful service.
Oh, Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Thank you very much. Krishna continue to bless you.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah, Sahadev Prabhu has set an example for all our devotees to follow.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Thank you. So I'm going to put the verse on the screen.
Okay.
And
we can begin.
yes.
Okay, so the verse is on the board.
Okay, so the verse is on the screen.
Yes, so
Yes.
we'll begin. Narayana Namaskritya Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nashtapraya Sabhadresu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhakti Bhagavati Naistiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 9, entitled The Passing Away of Bhishma Dev in the Presence of Lord Krishna. And for today's discussion, we shall focus on verse 25. So I will take this Sanskrit and then the translation and the purport, then we proceed from there. So the verse says, Sutta Uvacha Yudhishthira Stat Akarnya Sayanam Shara Panjare Prichat Vividham Dharmam Rishinam Chanushri Vantam. Sutta Uvacha Yudhishthira Stat Akarnya Sayanam Sarapanjare Aprita Vividhan Dharmam Rishinam Chanu Srivatam. Sutta Uvacha Yudhishthira Stat Akarnyam Sayanam Sarapanjare Aprita Vividhan Dharmam Rishinam Chanu Srivatam. Word for word translation. Sutta Uvacha, Sri Sutta Goswami said, Yudhishthira, King Yudhishthira, that, Akarnya, hearing, Sayanam, lying down, Sara Panjare, on the bed of arrows, Aprincha, ask, Vividam, multifarious, Dharman, duties, Rishinam, of the rishis, Cha, and Anushrivantam, hearing after. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Lacy Bhakti Vedanta Swami, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Sutta Goswami said, Maharaj Yudhishthira, after hearing Bhishma Dev speak in that appealing tone, asked him in the presence of all the great rishis about the essential principles of various religious duties.
Hey, I don't.
Srila Prabhupada, Bhishma Dev speaking in that appealing tone convinced Maharaj Yudhishthira that he was very soon passing away. Maharaj Yudhishthira was inspired by Lord Sri Krishna to ask him of the principles of religion. Sri Krishna inspired Maharaj Yudhishthira to ask Bhishma Dev in the presence of many great sages, indicating thereby that the Lord's devotee, like Bhishma Dev, although apparently living as a worldly man, is far superior to many great sages, even Vyasadeva. Another point is that Bhishma Dev at that time was not only lying on the deathbed of Ambrose, but was aggrieved because of that state. One should not have asked him any questions at that time. But Lord Sri Krishna wanted to prove that his pure devotees are always sound in body and mind by dint of spiritual enlightenment. And thus, in any circumstances, a devotee of the Lord is in perfect order to speak of the right way of life. Yudhishthira also preferred to solve his problematic questions by asking Bhishma Dev rather than ask anyone else present, who was seemingly more learned than Bhishma Dev. This is all due to the arrangement of the great wheel carrier, Lord Sri Krishna, who establishes the glories of his devotee. The father likes to see the son become more famous than himself. The Lord declares very emphatically that worship of his devotee is more valuable than the worship of the Lord himself. Om Gyan Vedasya Gyanam Janashalakaya Chakshuram Litam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahim Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yukta Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavam Scha Upam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunastam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Scha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swaminiti Namine Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Asritatmane Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tetari Iti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Anvase Sasumyavadi Pasachade Satapini Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namini Gauratmize Namaha Nityanando Tendur Vasuda Pranavala Jalaviri Jivita Patir Krishna Prema Pradapamu Padmavati Sutta Srimam Sachirananda Purvajaha Bhavom Mata Jagat Rakta Rakta Gaura Kele Varaha Itam Harina Dveta Acharyam Bhakti Shamsanat Navataram Itam Samarveta Acharya Shraye Panchatattvamakam Krishna Bhakta Rupa Sarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakya Namami Bhakti Shantikam Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Nama Pankajanabaya Nama Pankajamadine Nama Pankajanitra Namaste Pankajanabaya Priye. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Jagaditaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopita Kanta Rama Kanta Namostate Jayatam Surato Pango Mama Mandir Gatima Sarvaswa Padam Pujo Radha Mantana Mohano Divyar Vendaranya Kalpa Drumada Srimad Radhakara Simhastanustau Sri Sri Radha Srila Govinda Devo Christiani Sivya Manosmarami Srimam Rasarasaram Vivam Sivata Tatastita Karsan Swanai Gopi Gopinata Sri Estunaha Taptakan Chana Gorangi Radhe Brindavanishwari Vrishabhanu Sudha Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation again. Shuta Goswami said, Maharaj Yudhishthira, after hearing Bhishmadev speak in that appealing tone, asked him, in the presence of all the great rishis, essential principles of various religious duties. Mukam karoti vachalam padum lagayate green, yatkari patamahan vande, Shri Guru Dinantam, Manam Madhavam, Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Akanda Mandalakaram, Yevta Yuna Characharam, Tanpadam Dashitam Ye, Tasmai, Sri Gurave Namaha. So everyone is welcome to today's Srimad Bhagavatam class. And before we speak, we seek the blessings of all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis on this platform, and especially my superiors, His Holiness Kamichandra Swami Maharaj, His Holiness Bhakti Jiradamundara Maharaj, His Holiness Bhakti Vasudev Maharaj, His Holiness Bhakti Krishna Swami Maharaj. So that Krishna Maharaj prays for the mercy of the Vaishnavas. Durgame Patime Indasya. My path is very difficult. My path is slippery. Then I am also blind. Indasya means blind. The path is difficult, my journey is difficult, my path is slippery, and I'm blind. Therefore, I need the stick of mercy, the stick of support, Swakripa. Swakripa. Danena. Santa Santu Avalam Balam. So we always need the mercy of the Vaishnavas. We always need the mercy of the Vaishnavas. Without the mercy of the Vaishnavas, we cannot make any progress. In fact, our whole existence in Krishna consciousness is based on the mercy of the great Vaishnavas. So we always need their mercy. Without their mercy, we cannot make any headway on this royal path of bhakti. Actually, it is said that the birthplace of bhakti is the heart of the bhakta. The birthplace of bhakti is the heart of the bhakta. The pure devotees of the Lord, they carry the Lord within their heart, and when they speak, the words carry the dust, the saffron dust from the lotus lips of these great devotees, and they enter into the ears, down to the hearts of the living entities, and they create such a revolution. So therefore, Krishna consciousness means devotee association. Krishna consciousness means devotee mercy. Krishna consciousness means Vaishnava's mercy. So we are very, very much dependent on the mercy of the Vaishnavas. And this verse is very much demonstrating that. As we are all aware, after the battle of Kurukshetra, Yudhishthira Maharaj was lamenting so much, that the 640 million people that were killed, he was responsible because that was done to place him on the throne of Hastinapur. So Yudhishthira Maharaj accepted the responsibility of killing all those 640 million men, not including the animals that were also involved in the war. And so he was lamenting so much. And different personalities tried to talk to him. Let's see, it is not your responsibility. Domyamuni talked to him, Srivas talked to him, Krishna himself talked to him, but Yudhishthira Maharaj was adamant. He did not listen to any of these people, even including the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. He was weeping, he was lamenting, he was grieving that he was responsible for the massacre of the 640 men. And so Krishna is behind the whole activity. Krishna wanted to demonstrate the position of his exalted devotee Bhishma Dev. So because of that, Krishna as a super soul, Antaryami, did not allow Yudhishthira Maharaj to accept instructions from all the exalted people, even including himself. So now we are hearing that when Maharaj Yudhishthira, after hearing Bhishma Dev speak in that appealing tone, asked him in the presence of all the great rishis about the essential principles of religious various religious duties. So there are a number of points the Prabhupada has raised in the purport. The first point is that Bhishma Dev, speaking in that appealing tone, convinced Maharaj Yudhishthira that he was very soon passing away. So all others have spoken to Yudhishthira Maharaj in different manners, but Bhishma Dev, he alone spoke to him in a very appealing voice, appealing tone. And that touched the heart of Yudhishthira Maharaj. And therefore, Yudhishthira Maharaj was inspired by the Supreme Lord within his heart to inquire from the dying grandfather Bhishma Dev the principles of various religious duties. So speech is of great importance. There are different kinds of speeches. There is the normal speech. There is appealing speech. And there is a harsh speech. Actually, Krishna, in the Bhagavad Gita, he answered a question that was raised by Arjuna when Krishna talked about this Titari Muni, one who has transcended the modes of nature, one who has become transcendental. When he spoke about him, immediately Arjuna wanted to know the symptoms by which you can identify such a transcendental person. So Arjuna asked a question. Stita pragyasya kabasa samadhi stasya keshava. Oh Krishna, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak? And what is his language? How does he sit? And how does he walk? So from this question, we can understand that there are different ways of speaking. There are different ways of talking, sitting, walking, eating, sleeping, and so on. There is the ordinary way we do these things, but there is also a spiritual way to do these things. And in the purport to that verse, Srila Prabhupada writes, speech is the most important quality of any man. It is said that a fool is undiscovered as long as he does not speak. And certainly, a well-dressed fool cannot be identified unless he speaks. But as soon as he speaks, he reveals himself at once. So therefore, speech is the most important quality of any man. And we can see it manifested here. That even great personalities, they spoke to Yudhishthira Maharaj, but he was not moved. But as soon as Bhishma Dev spoke to him in an appealing tone, Yudhishthira Maharaj, he accepted, he succumbed, he agreed to the proposal that Bhishmadev was making. Against this background, we can also see the speech that was made by Balaram. When the Kurus arrested Samba, the son of Krishna, who wanted to marry Lakshmana, the daughter of Duryodhana. They arrested him and they locked him up in Hastinapur. So Lord Balaram was sent as a messenger to tell the Kurus to release Samba. When Lord Balaram went to Hastinapur as a messenger of the Yadus, he spoke in such a commanding voice, full of heroic assertion, supremacy, and chivalry. So much that the leaders of the Kuru dynasty, they did not appreciate Balaram's speech. And so they also replied in a harsh language to Balaram. Of course, Balaram is the supreme personality of Godhead, and whatever he says, there is no challenger. But the Kurus, they dared challenge Balaram. And that was when Balaram showed his power. Immediately, with his plow, he started dragging the whole of Hastinapur and wanted to throw it into the Ganges. There was an earthquake. Everywhere there was trembling. And the Kurus understood that they have bitten more than they could chew. They understood they have gone beyond their means. And so they had to immediately appear before Balaram and pay obeisances and offer Samba and Lakshmana without any reservation. But the point here is appealing speech and a harsh, strong speech. Generally, if we want to appeal to people, generally, if we want people to listen to us, then we have to speak in a very appealing language, just as Bhishmadev is demonstrating here. Bhishmadev is demonstrating his purity. He is demonstrating his devotion. He is demonstrating his love for Krishna. Because Bhishmadev is such an exalted devotee, he knows the art of speech. He knows how to enter into people's hearts. He knows how to conquer the false ego of people. That is the quality of Bhishmadev. That is the quality of an exalted devotee like Bhishmadev. So Prabhupada also mentions that Yudhishthira Maharaj was inspired by Lord Sri Krishna to ask him of the principles of religion. And he inspired Yudhishthira Maharaj to ask Bhishmadev in the presence of many great sages, indicating thereby that the Lord's devotee like Bhishmadev, although apparently living as a worldly man, was far superior to many, many great sages, even including Srila Vyasadeva. 2 days ago, His Holiness Bhakti Damodara Maharaj was mentioning in his very beautiful lecture how the devotional service of Bhishmadev is superior to that of Srila Vyasadeva. So here Srila Prabhupada mentions it directly. So this is the exalted position of Bhishmadev. Bhishmadev is so exalted that here he is placed above Srila Vyasadeva. And here is mentioned that Krishna inspired Yudhishthira Maharaj. Actually, Krishna is an inspiration for everyone. Even Lord Brahma, when Lord Brahma came out of the lotus flower in the beginning of the creation, he was completely ignorant. He was surrounded by darkness, and he did not know which direction to go. He was confused. And so Krishna inspired Brahma with the word tapa. And because of the great intelligence of Brahma, he understood that tapa to mean he must perform some austerity by which things can be clear for him. So immediately he involved himself in tapasya for thousands of celestial years. So it is said in the Bhagavatam, Prajodita yena pura saraswati, that in the beginning of creation, the Lord amplified the potent knowledge of Brahma from within his heart and inspired him with full knowledge of the creation. And from that, Brahma was able to generate the creation. So we can see that Krishna, he is inspiring everybody as a super soul. Sarvasya chaham hriday sanivishto matas smriti jnanam apohanam cha. Krishna says, I am seated in everyone's heart. And from him comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. And of course, inspiration. If Krishna does not inspire, nothing happens. In fact, this inspiration was so much magnified in the case of Ramananda Raya. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met Srila Ramananda Raya on the Godavari River, he so much inspired him. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj says, Sancharya Ramabida Bhakta Mega Swabhakti Siddhanta Chayamritani. That's Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is known as Gauranga, is an ocean of all conclusive knowledge. And he empowered and inspired Ramananda Raya, who may be likened to a cloud of devotional service. And this cloud was filled with water of conclusive purpose of devotional service. That he spread that water over the sea of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And the ocean of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became filled with the jewels of knowledge of pure devotional service. Very interesting. Ramananda Raya considered himself a Kayasta, a Sudra. Kayastas are also Sudras. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made him an Acharya. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inspired him, empowered him with so much knowledge that Ramananda Raya was now speaking and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was now speaking. Actually, Ramananda Raya says that I know nothing, I have nothing, I am no one. but only by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is speaking through my mouth. And again, mysteriously, he is listening. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inspired Ramananda Raya to speak such deep, deep knowledge of bhakti, exalted knowledge of bhakti. And at the same time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was listening. He became the audience. So that is the wonderful nature of Krishna. He can inspire anyone. He can inspire anyone to do anything. That is what the non-devotees and the Mayavadis, they cannot understand how Krishna inspires the devotee. Krishna inspired Prahlad Maharaj so much that he was so fearless. Prahlad Maharaj was so fearless. Hiranyakashipu was feared by the demigods, by the mere blinking of his eyes. The demigods, they were passing stool, they were passing urine. When Hiranyakashipu would blink his eyes, they were afraid. But Prahlad Maharaj, a 5-year-old boy, he was so inspired by Krishna that he did not care about Hiranyakashipu. He was preaching to Hiranyakashipu. He was going against Hiranyakashipu's policies. He was not even afraid that Hiranyakashipu could kill him. Same thing. When Narada Muni lost his mother, he had just received the mercy of the Bhakti Vedantas by taking the remnants of their prasadam, by hearing the narrations of Srimad Bhagavatam. And so when the Bhakti Vedantas finished their 4 months Chaturmasya month and left, he also decided to go on traveling towards the north. Krishna inspired him to just keep going. He inspired him to meditate. And while he was meditating, he heard Krishna's voice. Actually, Krishna came before him. So Krishna can inspire anybody. And so here it is said that Krishna inspired Yudhishthira Maharaj to hear from Bhishmadev. So it is said that we shall all pray to Krishna to inspire us from within the heart, to lend our ears to the discussions on Srimad Bhagavatam. We should pray for this inspiration from Krishna so that we can be attracted to the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. We should become attracted to the discussions, to the discourses on Srimad Bhagavatam. We need that inspiration. We have to pray for it. And it's essential. Without being inspired, how can we hear Srimad Bhagavatam? Without being inspired, how can we chant very sincerely? Without being inspired, how can we even accept instructions of the spiritual master? It is said that the spiritual master is an agent of Krishna. So he also inspires the devotees to accept the process of Krishna consciousness. Actually, our process is a process of voluntary devotional service, voluntary activities. And how do we accept it? Why do we accept it? Because we feel inspired by the words of the spiritual master, by the words of the Vaishnavas. We feel inspired to accept voluntarily to perform a particular service. So it's not only Krishna who inspires the pure devotees of the Lord, they can also inspire the devotee from within the heart. So we should all pray for this inspiration because it's required. Without being inspired from within the heart, it is very difficult to walk the path of bhakti. Another salient point that Srila Prabhupada made, that at the time Bhishma Dev was lying on the deathbed of arrows, he was greatly aggrieved because he was in pain. And therefore, one should not have asked him any question at that time. But Lord Sri Krishna wanted to prove that his pure devotees are always sound in health and in mind by dint of spiritual enlightenment. And thus, in any circumstance, a devotee of the Lord is in perfect order to speak of the right way of life. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna tells Uddhava in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Maman nishtaya buddhe dharma indriya samyamaha. Absorbing the intelligence in me constitutes mental equilibrium, and complete discipline of the senses is self-control. Tolerance means patiently enduring unhappiness, and steadfastness occurs when one conquers the tongue and the genitals. Absorbing the intelligence in me constitutes mental equilibrium. This is what Bhishma Dev was doing. He had desired that Krishna will come to his bedside. He had desired that Krishna will stand before him in his beloved form, his worshipable deed, Istadeva. That was his meditation. And Krishna understood the mind of his devotee, his dear devotee. So Krishna is right there at the bedside of Bhishma Dev when he was about to leave. And so Bhishma Dev captured Krishna in his mind. Bhishma Dev was in samadhi. He was meditating on the form of the Lord, Paratasarati form of the Lord. So even though he was in pain, even though he was lying on a bed of arrows, even though he was in such a miserable situation in material terms, painful situation, but because of his transcendental absorption, the pain was irrelevant. His bliss of seeing the Lord was most important. So the same thing, Srila Prabhupada, on his deathbed, he was not eating for months. But Srila Prabhupada was absorbed in the nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam. That even though pain was in his body, Srila Prabhupada was relishing Srimad Bhagavatam to the very end of his life. So actually, this is a demonstration that Krishna consciousness transcends bodily consciousness. If we are able to rise to this platform of Krishna consciousness, we can transcend pain, we can transcend material misery, we can transcend all material difficulties just by becoming fully Krishna conscious. So Bhishma Dev is demonstrating here that he was in samadhi, he was absorbed in the Lord, and therefore the arrows piercing his body and the so-called pain was insignificant as compared to the bliss of his Krishna consciousness. Actually, it is said that death means samadhi. Very advanced soul, for a very advanced soul, death is samadhi. Death is bliss. Like the case of Dadichi Muni in the 6th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, when the demigods approached Dadichi Muni for his bones, so that they can use the bone to produce the Brajanat for killing Vritrasur. He gave it. He withdrew his senses into the mind, withdrew his mind into the intelligence, withdrew the intelligence into the ego, withdrew the ego into the soul, and blissfully he left the body, and the demigods carried off his bones, with which Vajra, the instrument of Indra, was manufactured, and that was used in killing Vritrasur. So here we can understand that by our Krishna consciousness, by our blissful experiences, we can actually transcend bodily pain. I also remember one devotee, very exalted devotee, he also underwent a medical operation without anesthesia. And when they asked him how he did that, he said it's just a matter of switching the mind from the body to the soul, switching the mind to the bliss of Krishna consciousness, and one is no more connected to the body. Of course, it's a very exalted position. It cannot be imitated, but it is possible that we can raise our consciousness to a level that the body becomes superfluous. The pain in the body becomes superfluous. Yudhishthira Maharaj also preferred to solve his problematic question by asking Bhishma Dev rather than ask anybody else present there, who was seemingly more learned than Bhishma Dev. This is all due to the arrangement of the great wheel carrier, Lord Sri Krishna, who establishes the glories of his devotees. So we all know that Bhishma Dev has such an intimate relationship with Krishna. Previous speakers have explained that intimate relationship, and that is why he had to play the opposing party role. Krishna wanted to enjoy Bhishma Dev's arrows. Srila Prabhupada explained in one purport that the arrows that Bhishma Dev was shooting at Krishna were like throwing flowers of rose, petals of rose onto the Lord. The arrows that Bhishma Dev was shooting at Krishna's chest were like offering roses, very fragrant roses at Krishna. And Prabhupada mentions that sometimes when lovers, when they kiss, one lover may bite the other lover's lips. But a lover does not feel pain. He rather feels bliss, that the lover is biting his lips. So similarly, that loving relationship between Krishna and Bhishma Dev made his arrows, or made the shooting of his arrows to be compared to the biting of a lover. So Bhishma Dev's relationship with Krishna was so intimate, was so great, that he could only satisfy the Lord by being on the opposite side. Actually, we can see that also, because if Krishna really wanted to fight Bhishma Dev, he would have used his weapon. He would have done anything. But Krishna did not want to actually kill Bhishma Dev. He really wanted to relish his service. And therefore, he demonstrated that a devotee's vow is even superior to his vow. Even though Krishna said he would never participate in the war, he would not fight. But Bhishma Dev made Krishna to break that vow. So it is said here, Aham Bhakta Paradino, that Krishna is under the control of his devotees. Krishna accepts to take a subservient position before his devotees. And Krishna actually worships his own devotees. Krishna says that a devotee is worshipable, a devotee is superior to him. Adara paricharyam sarvagai abhivadantam madbhakta pujibhya dikaha. Lord Krishna considers the worship of his pure devotee superior to his own worship. In fact, he considered that first-class worship than his own worship. So Krishna was relating to Bhishma Dev from the battlefield to the dying ground to the deathbed. Krishna is just demonstrating how exalted Bhishma Dev is. And the other day, Bhakti Vasudeva Maharaj was saying that the sacrifices Bhishma Dev accepted, performed just for his father is enough to demonstrate the caliber of devotional service that was within his heart. For a young man to renounce the throne of Hastinapur, for a young man to renounce marriage, renounce everything and take celibacy, it is such a determination to please his superiors. And we can understand that he has such devotion for the service of his superiors. And that is reflected here. He has such devotion for Krishna that Krishna wants to glorify Bhishma Dev. And that is why he inspired Yudhishthira Maharaj to ignore all the advices that he received from Domya Muni, from Vyasadeva, from himself, Lord Krishna himself. And now Bhishma Dev is instructing Yudhishthira Maharaj, and Yudhishthira Maharaj is very attentively, eagerly receiving instructions from Bhishma Dev. So here, Lord Krishna wants to demonstrate how superior a devotee like Bhishma Dev is. So the position of the devotee is very exalted. Now Krishna himself worships his own devotees. And that is why Lord Chaitanya came. Lord Chaitanya came to experience the service of Srimati Radharani, the bhava of Srimati Radharani, because Krishna is controlled by Srimati Radharani. So Krishna came as a devotee to experience what it is. What is it that my devotees, they control me by their love? So he came as a devotee, and he was always shedding tears in separation of Krishna. So it is important to note that devotional service is a special facility that does not only bring us to Krishna, but it actually makes the devotee take a superior position, like Yashoda Mahi, like Nanda Maharaj, the cowhead boys, the gopis. Krishna sees all of them either as equals or superiors. And how did that come about? By devotional service. Mahi Bhakti Bhutana, Krishna says that by the process of bhakti, Amrita Twataya Kalpate, by the process of bhakti, anybody can become dear to me. And you, gopis, you have developed such affection for me that I have become indebted to all of you. So devotional service, what we have in our hands, this process of bhakti is such a special process. It's a special gift that we have. And if we take advantage of it, Goloka Vrindavan is our home. There we can play with Krishna on equal grounds. We can even instruct Krishna. That is the power of bhakti. Bhishma Dev desired Krishna to be around his bedside at the time of his departure. And because of his great devotional service, Krishna is right there to see that his devotee returns home back to Godhead. So we all have the opportunity to serve Krishna very nicely, endear ourselves to Krishna, and Krishna will come to us at the moment of leaving the bodies and he will facilitate our going back home, back to Godhead, just as Bishop Dave is experiencing in this verse. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. Hare Krishna. If there are any comments, they are welcome. If there are no comments, we end here.
Adi Samaraj, thank you for your class.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Honorable Businesses. I have a question on the paper.
Okay.
When Prabhupada is saying that Krishna knows that the worship of his devotee is better than the worship of the Lord himself.
Yes.
So my question is, when we worship devotees, like worship the Guru, worship Krishna, when we worship devotees, and that devotee is not properly situated, does our worship have any spiritual benefits, or are we entangled in that worship?
Well, I think there are categories of devotees. Rupa Goswami gives us some guidance. He describes three kinds of devotees: the Kanista, the Madhyama, and the Uttama. He says the Kanista, he loves to worship the deities. He's attracted to the process, but he has no faith, he has no knowledge. He worships the deity, he respects the deity, but he does not respect other devotees. That is the symptom of a Kanishta. The Madhyama has great faith in the Lord, but his knowledge may not be very deep. But because he has great faith in the process of Krishna consciousness, he cannot be converted, he cannot be changed. He is fixed in his devotional service. Such a devotee, he recognizes the non-devotees, he recognizes the demons, the non-devotee demons, the non-devotee innocent people. He recognizes the devotees who are serving the Lord, and he recognizes the Lord. Then the Uttama Adhikari, he is very deep in his knowledge and is very deep in his faith. He can convince anyone to take to the process of bhakti. So he says such a devotee is worshipable. Is worshipable. The Uttama Adhikari is worshipable. Also, Narada Muni's instruction to Dhruva, he also said that there are three ways to relate. He says, when we meet somebody who is superior to us, we should be eager to serve such a person. When we meet somebody who is equal to us, we should make friendship with such a person. And when we meet somebody who is inferior to us, we should not look down on him. We should give him guidance how to make progress in Krishna consciousness. So with these instructions, we should know who to worship and who not to worship. When Krishna says, my devotee is worshipable, he actually means his pure devotees. Of course, that does not mean we should neglect the Kanista and the Uttama. No. And that is why Narada is giving this. If we meet somebody who is inferior to us, we should show some compassion by trying to help him to come up. And when we meet somebody who is equal to us, we should not be proud. We should simply make friends with him and let's discuss Krishna conscious kata, Hari kata. And if we meet somebody who is superior to us, we should be ready to serve him. We should be ready to worship him. So the worship refers to those superior devotees, those Uttama devotees who are very fixed in their faith, who are fixed in their knowledge and can never deviate. So that is the instructions from such great personalities like Narada Muni and Srila Rupa Goswami.
Thank you, Prabhu. Next question is from Kavikanapu, Prabhu.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Thank you for your lecture. Nice to see you.
Yes, yes, Father. Very happy to hear your lecture. We enjoy it. My question is regarding in the course of your lecture, you mentioned about we performing pure devotional service, and at the end of the day, we can go back to the local Vrindavan, and we can go and relate with Krishna. And also, in the course of the lecture, you mentioned about the sacrifice of Bhishma Dev to his father. He neglected all the material enjoyment in order to make his father to be okay. So, and I was thinking about, the other day we were talking about the Jehovah's Witness. So I was making some research and analysis about their practice. Because it's one of the examples that Guru Maharaj has given about how they relate with each other. So I saw that their goal is for them is to remain in this world. This world is the kingdom of God. At the end of the day, where they are going to remain. And because of that concept or goal, we try to each other and to be nice to other people because they think that at the end of the day, this is going to be the heaven. But meanwhile, our goal is to go to local Vrindavan. So as a devotee, we become very nice in practicing devotional service to go and meet Krishna. But to other devotees that we are with, we look at them with different kind of things, and we don't relate to each other properly. Like you mentioned about the Madhyaman, Kanisha, and all these. But we see that even while observing that, we don't relate properly with ourselves. Meanwhile, those people who think that the kingdom of God is going to be there on the earth, they relate with themselves very nicely. Maybe at the end of the day, if they have to go to that kingdom of God, and they may be originally being in the kingdom of God even before going there. Like Bhajita Maharaj say, even though if you don't believe in God, you should act as if you believe in God, because if God is there, then you have nothing to lose. So I don't know how you can throw more light on this in terms of some people behaving nicely to inherit the kingdom of God on earth. People, they want to go and inherit the kingdom of God that they have not seen, but they don't behave nicely. So how can we balance this? Maharaj, please throw more light.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Yes, it's the fact that if we don't relate nicely with the devotees around us, then how can we relate nicely with Krishna when we go to the spiritual world? The devotees are Krishna's manifestations. The devotees are Krishna's agents. So we have to learn to relate to the devotees nicely in order to relate to Krishna nicely in the spiritual world. It is the Kanishta who thinks that only by worshiping the deity without caring for the other devotees present, without respecting the other devotees, without showing any love for the other devotees, he can go back home. That is a Kanishta mentality. But a Madhyama doesn't think like that. Neither does an Uttama think like that. The Uttama shows great concern for every living entity, even animals, insects. Like we see the case of Narada Muni's disciple, the hunter, Vanacari. He was not ready to step on ants because he has compassion for all those living entities. So, to make advancement in Krishna consciousness actually also includes respecting the devotees, treating the devotees nicely, because they are Krishna's tadiya. Aradhananam sarvesham Vishnu aradhanam param. Tadiya nam samacharam. Tadiya are Krishna's property. They are Krishna's property. So therefore, if we mistreat the devotees, if we neglect the devotees, and we think we can just go back home and enjoy with Krishna, that's not true. Krishna will only allow us in the spiritual world when we have treated his devotees very nicely, when we are related to the devotees very nicely. So going back to Godhead, qualifying to go back to Godhead includes dealing with the devotees around us. Though we are meditating on the spiritual world, we are hoping to go to the spiritual world. That is our meditation. But at the same time, we must know that we are surrounded by Krishna's servants, Krishna's devotees. And therefore, we must relate to them very nicely. We must take care of them. We must treat them nicely in order to please Krishna. Krishna will be happy with us when we treat his servants very nicely. And Krishna will not be happy with us when we mistreat his servants. So therefore, we have to please the devotees in order to please Krishna. The story of Kalidas. Kalidas used to buy first-class mangoes and distribute to Vaishnavas to eat. And of course, he will hide in the bush. And when they finish eating and throw away the peels and the seeds, Haridas will come out and he'll pick the seeds and peels and relish that. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the super soul. He understood how wonderful this Haridas was serving, Kalidas was serving the Vaishnavas. So when they went for their yearly Ratha Yatra program in Puri, he drank the water that washed Lord Chaitanya's Mahaprabhu's feet. 3 times, actually. Was it 2 times? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had told Govinda and Kashishwara they should never allow any devotee to drink the water that is used in washing his feet. He told them, gave them stern warning. But on one occasion, the Lord himself saw Kalidas catching the water that he was washing his feet with and drinking it. 1, 2, 3. And then Mahaprabhu then himself, after he took it a number of times, he stopped him and said, that is enough. And so it's explained that because Kalidas, he learned the science of serving the Vaishnavas. He learned the art of nicely serving the Vaishnavas. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave him the opportunity to drink the water from his lotus feet, from his divine lotus feet. So if we please the devotees, Krishna will be pleased with us. And if we displease the devotees, Krishna will not be pleased with us. Because the issue of worshiping, Uttama Bhaktas, they are worshipable. But we should treat other devotees nicely. Even if we are not worshiping them, but we should treat them very nicely. We should take care of what they need. We should provide whatever we can do to assist them, to make them happy, to make them comfortable. We should do that. Understanding that Krishna is taking note how we are relating to each and every devotee. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Our next question is from Sadev Prabhu, please. Sadev.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Sri Sadev.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Well, my question is about Sutta Goswami.
Yeah.
Sutta Goswami, actually, he was passing by with his disciples when he met the thousands of sages in the Namisharanya forest.
Yeah.
And they invited him to speak. So my assumption is that he was not formally called to speak, but they just found him and they asked him to speak. So it is described that he spoke many topics, as Srila Prabhupada also said in this purport. So I want to find out, did he speak just like in the case of Srila Vyasadeva and Ganapati, whereby they sat at one place and read, dictated everything, and Ganapati wrote everything? Or they did it in spurts, like he spoke for one day and then he came back the following day and spoke a different subject matter? Just to
Well,
know. Does it?
well, I can't say I've not come across the details, but what I know is that he, he was present when Shukadeva Goswami spoke the Srimad Bhagavatam to the hearing of Parikshit Maharaj. He happened to be there. And just like the case of Parikshit Maharaj, when Parikshit Maharaj was cursed to die in 7 days, he had no idea who was going to give him knowledge of a diamond. He had no idea. But he knew that on the banks of the Ganges, there are always saintly people. So he decided to go there. He will meet some saintly people. And the news of his death spread everywhere, that people gathered around him. And so just around that time, people were suggesting different things. But just around that time, by the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shukadeva Goswami appeared. And Sutta Goswami also happened to be there. So he heard the whole Srimad Bhagavatam from the lips of Shukadeva Goswami. So as he was also traveling with his disciples, then he came across these sages performing the 1,000-year sacrifice. And so he was invited, and they also heard the Srimad Bhagavatam from him. Whether he spoke continuously for the 7 days, he spoke continuously for 1 month, that much I cannot say. Whether he spoke for some time, went and came back, I have no idea. Maybe His Holiness Bhakti Damodara Maharaj may share with us, if he has more information, on how Sutta Goswami presented Srimad Bhagavatam to the sages of Naimisaranya. But I do know that he gave them the knowledge, as is mentioned here, Sutta Uvacha. He spoke the whole Bhagavatam to them, but exactly how long it took, months, years, that I've not come across. And Maharaj could help us if he has some information. So, Maharaj, Sahadev's question about Sutta Goswami, whether he spoke 1 day, spoke 1 month, spoke 1 year, continuously, break, I have no idea.
Maharaj, you can unmute.
Is it muted? Let's try to unmute.
Yeah. It's muted.
Oh, he's muted. He's speaking, but we can't hear him.
Oh.
I'm not speaking.
Oh, I'm sorry, Maharaj. I'm sorry, Maharaj. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Maharaj.
I don't know.
But, Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Krishna Prabhu, may I ask a second question? Am I allowed?
The question you are asking, Prabhu Srivas is asking, remember that the sages of Naimisaranya, when Sutta was serving them, was during Chatumasya, when he was serving his mother. I mean, when Narada Muni and the mother, the sages of Naimisaranya was during Chatumasya of 4 months, right? So that one of the sages of Naimisaranya, when Narada Muni was serving them to helping the mother, was only 4 months. The Sutta Goswami himself, you have to read the 7th canto to know how long it lasted.
Oh, 7th canto, okay.
But the sages of Naimisaranya and Ramuni was 4 months, Chatumasya period. That one is specific. The Sutta Goswami, 7th canto, you'll find the answer. When you do it by verb, you get it there.
Do Bhakti Baba.
Yeah, you have to study Bhagavatam.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Well, by your grace, I'm studying Bhagavatam now, but we haven't gotten there yet. I hope we get there sometime. But His Grace Srivas Vanacari, I have this other question.
Okay.
Srila Prabhupada was talking about how he wanted to make his devotee more famous. Where Srila Prabhupada was saying every father wants their child to be like more famous, more prosperous than themselves. So Krishna wants his devotees to be glorified. And so he asked Yudhishthira to ask Bhishma Dev these questions on religion. But Srila Prabhupada did mention that even though Bhishma Dev was in such excruciating pain, but his mind, his thought was very clear. And you talked about how Srila Prabhupada himself was going through so much physical bodily pains, but cognitively he was very sharp. And fortunately for me, I say fortunate or unfortunate, I was here when I witnessed how Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj also left his body. He was in such excruciating pain, but his mind was very sharp. But my question is, should that be used as a yardstick to measuring or appreciating a particular devotee's advancement? Because I'm thinking that it could also happen that a very advanced devotee may have like cognitive challenges during his last breath of life, but that does not take anything away from who he is, or like the way an advanced devotee leaves his body, whether it is plane crash, car accident, or whatever, should not really be used as a barometer to determine whether this devotee was advanced or not advanced. If you can throw a little more light on it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Actually, Srila Prabhupada said in one purport that even if a devotee forgets Krishna due to certain circumstances at the time of death, but if that devotee has rendered such nice service, he has performed very well, but somehow or the other at the time of death, the circumstances were such that he cannot remember Krishna. Prabhupada said, Krishna remembers the devotee. Yeah. So we cannot say that every devotee has to behave like Bhishma Dev or behave like Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj or Srila Prabhupada or Madhavendra Puri and so on. But Krishna is cognizant of the devotee's service. He is cognizant of the devotee's mindset, his love for him. And therefore, if circumstances do not allow the devotee to remember Krishna at the time of death, Krishna remembers the devotee at the time of death. So all that we need to do is to do our part. And if somehow or the other we can remember Krishna at the time of death, all the best. But if for some reason, the bodily situation, some circumstances, maybe like a plane crash or car crash or some accident, self will take care of the situation. Krishna will make the necessary arrangement. As a super soul, he will make the necessary arrangement by which the devotee is transferred to the spiritual planet. So for the arrangement for a devotee going back home, Krishna is attentive about that. Krishna is eager to receive us in the spiritual world, and therefore is very attentive how the devotee leaves the material world. So our duty is to remain faithful in the process of bhakti, remain committed, remain serious in our sadhanas, and the rest we leave it to Krishna and Guru. Whatever they decide at the time of death of the soul, that is over to them.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Sorry, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Write down Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto 344. 1344. Later you can read it.
344. Okay.
Because
Thank
when
you.
Sukadev was speaking to Parishit for 7 days, Sutta Goswami was there also.
Okay.
So he heard from Sukadev Goswami then before he spoke to the sages. 1344, you get downwards, you get the answer. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So if there are no comments or questions, we adjourn the sitting.
Yes, Maharaj, we ask all the devotees to kindly unmute yourselves. Let's chant Hare Krishna to Prabhu for coming, please.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama.
Abhaya Prabhu, all glories to you. Abhaya Prabhu, can we see your lotus face? Abhaya Prabhu, are you there?
One more, everybody
Is
together.
Abhaya Prabhu there?